In one generation, the landscape of the South Bay has changed dramatically. Where once was a valley of endless orchards and industry was confined to fruit packing, has now been replaced by housing tracts and the headquarters of high-tech companies. Apple Tree Lane and Pear Tree Lane rub shoulders with AMD Place and Semiconductor Drive. Chip processors, not cherries, are the main product today. High in the hills overlooking Silicon Valley is one of this region's few remaining links to its rich winemaking past. For almost 150 years, the Mirassous, America's oldest winemaking family, have been growing and producing award-winning vintages. Pierre Pellier arrived from France in 1854 and settled in the fertile Santa Clara Valley, where he planted the grape cuttings he'd brought with him. The vineyards may now be covered with new housing, but his original homestead is still in operation in the foothills of the Evergreen Valley in San Jose and run by the sixth generation of Mirassous. The Mirassou champagne production is located in the Old Novitiate in the hills above Los Gatos. The Catholic Jesuit brothers first began making Sacramento wine to support the novitiate in 1888. They ceased production in the 1980s when Mirassou took over the original caves, which now host the tasting room built deep into the mountainside. Champagne is primarily made from Chardonnay grapes, which are picked by hand and mechanical harvester in early August. They are crushed in the field and then transported to San Jose for processing. Danielle Capa, manager at Los Gatos, will now explain how the bubbles get in the champagne.
After the wine is fermented in barrels, it is bottled with yeast and sugar and tightly capped with a crown-style cap and placed in wooden triage bins. The yeast eats up the sugar in the secondary fermentation, giving off CO2 gas as a byproduct. The gas, trapped inside the bottle, pressurizes to the point of creating bubbles. The bottles are left on their side for 2 to 5 years. After this period of laying on the yeast, or en triage, the wine is sparkling but very cloudy, with lots of sediment. To remove this, the bottles are placed neck down in an A-frame or riddling rack, and every day for 2 weeks, the bottles are rotated or turned, gently moving the spent yeast cells down to the neck of the bottle where they can be easily removed. This process is done by hand. The paint marks on the bottom of the bottle are called riddling marks and serve as a reference point as to where to rotate the bottles. The next step is to extract the spent yeast cells. This is called disgorging. The bottles are chilled to reduce the gas pressure inside, and the bottleneck is inserted into a cold brine or glycolic solution, which freezes the plug of the yeast. The crown cap is popped off and the pressure in the bottle shoots out the frozen yeast plug, or verdoux. A small amount of wine is also lost. This is quickly replaced at the dosage step. Dosage adds a small amount of sugar syrup, sometimes brandy, to bring the sparkling wine to a desired sweetness level. The bottle is corked with a cylinder-like cork, and then the pressure of the mechanism creates the mushroom effect of the cork. Then a wire cage or cap is placed on the cork and the safety hood, and then the bottle is labeled. The champagne is then laid to rest on its side from 2 to 3 weeks, allowing the cork to set and the dosage to marry with the wine.
The tasting room is the ideal place to try a glass of chilled champagne and watch the pretty, long stream of tiny bubbles flow up the long flute glass and wonder at the marvel of the old technology that made it happen here in Silicon Valley.